Thank you for having me here. Jesse Ottley, President of Development Sales for Severa Real Estate. I've been with Severa for about 17 years, and we've sort of had the pleasure of watching this incredible city really grow into a city. I was driving across the bridge, I guess, just a couple of weeks ago from downtown to Brickell, and I was just taken by how this city has really come of age in such a short period of time. I'm traditionally from Australia, lived in California for many years, lived in Venezuela for many years, doing real estate in all of those markets. But it's just been such an incredible time. I got here in 2000, when I know a lot of us got here. Actually, it's kind of interesting dynamic. A lot of people got into Miami at that period of time, and we've been very much blessed and privileged to see this incredible growth in our city. So at Severa Real Estate, we've been delighted to work with a lot of developers who have really made that change. So this panel is exciting to me because it's talking about the future, it's talking about trends, it's talking about what's coming. And as a new city, we're so well positioned to be able to look at other trends in other parts of the world and other markets and to adopt those into our new product moving forward. So it's very exciting times.
Great, thank you.
Good morning. Thank you, Alfonso, for inviting me. Thank you, Jesse and Kobi, my friend. My name is Santiago Vanegas. I'm a president of Habitat Development, part of Habitat Group. I'm a real estate developer with 18 years experience here in Miami, specialized in West Brickell area and Little Havana. And we conform a little real estate asset management that buy and operate income properties, and depend of the cycle, we develop as well a project depend of the cycle. In this moment, we have an amazing project with what we think is very nice for this forum, because our project involves technology. The name of the project is Smart Brickell. So I think it's very interesting to start discussing what is the moment of the cycle that we are right now. So we think that this project is perfect for the next cycle. In addition, that involve all these trending technology elements that everybody wants to have in today's life. Everybody wants a smart lifestyle involving some technology in their house, involving smart design and smart use of the property that you could have, especially in today's days where you have Airbnb, new element in the industry, so, and all the other apps that involve real estate and smart living. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good morning. My name is Kobi Karp. I'm an architect. We have a small office on 29th and Biscayne. We have been in Miami since 1988. We do mostly lifestyle, resorts, hotels, any kind of lifestyle. We do affordable housing, like the Lyric we just finished by downtown. We do Fisher Island. We're doing the Palazzo del Sol in Luna. We're finishing the Four Seasons in Surfside, starting the Four Seasons in Fort Lauderdale. We do a lot of hotels, hospitality, limited service, AC Marriott, Hampton Inn on 34th and Biscayne. The Hyatt in Miami Beach you might have seen, the AC in Miami Beach you might have seen, the Residence Inn on 17th Street we've done. And we do work domestic and international, from Abu Dhabi to Cape Town to Cambodia and Vietnam, and of course Russia. Can't forget about Russia. We work in Sochi and Moscow. And we work domestically and international, and we do take Bitcoin, by the way. And we're basically a Miami a local company that started in Miami in the late 80s. Back then, the cycle was a little bit different. It was Miami Vice and Scarface days, and historic preservation was just starting in Miami Beach. Since then, obviously, it's gotten a little bit better to a certain extent, and that's what we do on a daily basis.
Thank you. Everyone hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Andrew Frey. I'm a small real estate developer working on a couple of small multifamily projects in Little Havana. I also do consulting work and fee development. I'm also on the board of Tri-Rail, so I get involved with a lot of the mobility, public transportation, and TOD discussions here in South Florida. I'm also the vice chair of the Urban Land Institute. We're also get involved with a lot of policy initiatives regarding mobility as well as affordability and sea level rise. To the point of technology and sort of the new, I also am an informal advisor for Urban Us, which is a venture capital firm based here in Miami that invests in what they call urban tech, anything technology that's to improve the built environment, mobility, or the operations of local government. They have also entered into a partnership with BMW Mini to create an accelerator in New York, and I also serve as a mentor to one of those companies that's currently going through the accelerator. So I try to stay on top of current trends in using technology in real estate and the built environment generally.
Perfect, thank you. Now that we have a panel with a vast expertise of all the different things that are going on, Kobi, why don't you get us started with where do you think, your signs are all over the city, where do you think we're going with the future development, both in the residential and the commercial side?
So my signs used to be all over the city, but they were taken down because of the hurricane for life safety. No, but seriously, I think that we are in a unique time. I'm 55 years old. As I've told you, I've been here for about a quarter of a century. Looking around this beautiful room, this is cyclical, but there's continuous business ongoing in the real estate market here in Florida. Andrew just mentioned transportation and technology, and it's a game changer. Once we get Florida more connected from a transportation standpoint, and not just the train. For example, we have never had direct flights to Abu Dhabi or to the Middle East or to the Far East. I would always have to go through Europe, wait for a couple of hours, change airplanes, and let somebody else, like British Airways or Lufthansa, make the money. Now we are starting to have direct flights, not only from Miami, but also from Fort Lauderdale. And I think those kind of actions are game changers. They're very important because they allow the majority of the population to enjoy arguably what is one of the best countries in the world, but also what is one of the best states in the lower 48, the only subtropical weather climate that you can have in the United States, which is here in Florida. And I think it's important for people to be able to fly directly from the Far East and the Middle East. I can say in this beautiful room, how many people were not born in Miami? And you will have everybody raising their hand. And that just right there tells you, I don't care what the economy is. I don't care if Castro is kicking everybody out of Cuba. I don't care if the market is crashing in Russia. I don't care if there's a revolution in Venezuela or if there's a war in the Middle East. Florida will continue to have positive population growth. It's public record. It's the United States Census. You can look it up. And over a decade, you get a 10% growth, which is 1% on an annual basis. Based on that, you have continuous buildings, which, as you all know, in the 70s and 80s were not built to meet the code, and we don't have fresh, brand new buildings of any caliber. And I'm talking high-end, middle-end, low-end, middle class, affordable, or workforce, as we like to call it these days. And so I'm optimistic. I don't care who the president is. I'm optimistic about the growth of South Florida.
Thank you. Who else would like to add? What are people looking for? What are the people that are coming to live here, to invest here, looking for in the developments that you guys are seeing, and what trends do you see that we are going to continue seeing in the future? Andrew.
Sure. I think to build on Kobi's statements, I mean, I'm also optimistic, and I think it has to do with the relative health of all the various sectors. I mean, currently, right now, clearly have another condo glut happening, but you look at apartments, office, retail, industrial, all the other sectors. I still think that there's great demand for it and a slow supply process. So I think that other sectors will remain relatively healthy. And to that diversity of sectors that are functioning, there's also diversity of demand. People are looking for different products. They're looking to live in different neighborhoods. Some people want the suburbs, but some people want urban infill. Some people want conventional office space. Other people want co-working or WeWork. Some people want traditional rental housing. Other people are looking to live in, co-housing, co-living, a dorm for grown-ups, micro units, all these different things. So I think there's folks that are convinced in the health of, national retail and large malls, Brickell City Center, and now, whatever portion of Miami World Center is still retail, the continuing development of Design District. But I would also say that there's demand for more neighborhood retail, stores that people can walk to, bodegas, dry cleaners, bakers in the neighborhood. So different scales of retail are also in play. Different hotel concepts, different locations. I know Grass River just did an a loft hotel west of the airport, which is, I think, I had not heard of an airport-related hotel happening in that area, but maybe that's just my East Dade bias. So I think there's a lot of things happening in a lot of different sectors with a lot of different product and a lot of different market drivers or market interest for new ways of living.
Yeah, no, as you mentioned, and tying up with what Jesse said, that the staggering number of development in Miami are incredible. I was just looking some statistics to share with you. Last year, Miami International Airport moved 44.5 million people. That's probably 150,000 a day, and the population of Miami-Dade is 2.5 million. So in 1 month, we moved more than the entire population of the county by MIA. The statistics of our port also has grown tremendously. Last year, we moved 8.8 million tons of cargo. We have 5.5 million cruise passengers. So by any means, right now we're building 447 towers in Miami-Dade alone. So with all the high-density land that is basically becoming more scarce, what do you think new projects and new futures we're going to see moving forward? Why, Santiago, you don't tell us what do you think was happening?
Talking about density of land, I would say that the knowledge that we have is especially in big downtown. Big downtown, we are talking about Brickell area, downtown area, and Biscayne corridor. No? All these three areas is what Miami Development Authority called the Big Miami. No? It's public information in Miami Development Authority. And the land is going, and the urbanism is going north. You see very limitation for supply of land, for example, on Brickell and on West Brickell. For example, on Brickell and West Brickell, especially West Brickell, we are talking about 18 acres for development. 18 acres in, talking about T624, which is West Brickell. We just have for West Brickell 3,600 units for the next cycle. So it's very limited what we are talking about land availability on West Brickell. The city, the Miami 21, is making some bonuses for housing. For example, they give you a double of density. Kobi could help me with that info specifically technically. But they are saying that they give you 80% bonuses if you go most housing or subsidized units. Every cycle is around 30,000 units, going 10,000 on Brickell area, 10,000 units on downtown Miami, and 10,000 units in Biscayne corridor. Right now, we are seeing the end of the cycle. For example, in Brickell area, the supply in this year is the most difficult year for this cycle, talking about supply. 1,700 units are delivering this year on Brickell area, but the next year we just have Eco Brickell. As you see on Brickell area, there is no more cranes. The cycle is ending in this moment. For 2019 is the last project of the cycle on Brickell, which is flat iron. So there is not supply for new project on Brickell for 2020. So the developer are going and start looking for land and especially for the next cycle, of course.
Okay, thank you. And Jesse, you guys manage several developments from various developers in town. What are you seeing? And you are in complete touch with the end users, the investor or the owner that is going to live on the units or are going to occupy the retail space. What are you seeing lately? Where do you think, this cycle is pretty much getting to the end? But what are you seeing on development phase? What are you seeing going forward?
So we're in the absorption stage right now. The untold story that I think is very important that we're seeing in the market, and in this cycle we've represented over 20 different development projects, and we've been selling around 1,000 units a year, and now we're closing around 1,000 units a year. But the untold story and the good news is that they're all closing. The closings, knock on wood, have been exceptional in our projects. There's very few markets in the world that demand a 50% deposit structure. And that's a new model that was adopted in this cycle here in Miami by the developers. And it was a very smart model. It was basically sort of adapting the Latin American model into Miami. And it has created tremendous stability in the market. So there's a lot of conversation about inventory and all the rest of it. But yes, I think you addressed it earlier in the population growth here. And I'm going to go back to how I had in my opening statement that as a city, we're growing so quickly that our product is just keeping up with us. So it's a very natural cycle. I felt like 4 years ago, every month I was launching another project. And then a year later, every month I was going to groundbreaking another project. And then the year after, we were having a top-off party. So now, every month, it seems like we're closing these buildings. And as Santi says, we are coming to the end of that cycle. But it's a very strong base right now. So we're in the absorption stage, right? So what will happen now is these units come online, they'll be rented, they'll be resold, they'll be remarketed, what have you. It has also cleared the sort of landscape for the buyer. So the buyers that are coming in now, there was a period a couple of years ago where it was like, Sideshow Alley in the circus, that every time somebody put a deposit on a building, there's another one that popped up $4 away. And so buyers were trying to decide between which projects they should be buying in. Now it's a cleaner landscape, I think, for buyers that are coming in. What they're looking for is value. What they're looking for is, Kobi touched on the transportation component. I think that's absolutely key. We have some of our developers, like the Mello Group, that are doing ARI on the Bay. One of their business models is to buy land next to the people mover in downtown. So as the demographic changes, these buyers, whether they be foreign buyers, whether they be local buyers that have decided to have one car instead of two cars or no cars, are now a lot more connected. So we're seeing that sort of trend in the development world as well. We're also seeing, I think the biggest shift is sort of a need for diversification of use. And in full disclosure, we are representing Santi and Smart Brickell, and we just met recently But when I met Santi, I said, I've been waiting to meet you for like 4 years because I think you're one of the smartest developers in Miami, because during the financial crisis a few years ago, what you did with Habitat and sort of pivoted and made a very successful project out of a typical condo building was brilliant. And it's that kind of flexibility of use that we're now incorporating into Smart Brickell that a lot of our international buyers are looking for. So I think in the past, some of the developers have sort of built buildings that were sort of answers to a question that was never really asked. So they'll build it and then we'll sell it. But now I think the developers and working with the architects, which, you know, we are very privileged in this city to have some brilliant star architects like Kobi that really are game changers. They're global names, they travel the world, they bring back these ideas, and they add to our city. I don't think we recognize enough the impact and the importance of architects, because they really have a global footprint, and what they are doing for our city to bring back these ideas, I think is absolutely exceptional. But our buyers are responding to that, so that's probably our biggest shift we're seeing.
Okay. Thank you. One of the things that really staggers me is that our life has significantly changed in the last 5 years, and many of us have not even noticed it. We all used to own cars 5 years ago. Some people don't own a car right now. Some people used to go out on a date on a car. Now everyone Ubers out. When you travel, people used to go to a hotel. Now we all go to an Airbnb. And everything changes, you know, where we work. Everyone used to have their own small office. Now many of us work on a shared environment. And that is having huge impact in the lifestyles of everyone. How do you think going forward, you know, it only happened the last 5 years. So, you know, we cannot even project what can happen in the future. So all these technologies that are really changing real estate. And Miami is a city that, you know, one of my clients says that Manhattan took 100 years to do it. Miami is going to be finished in 30 years. So how do you think all these technologies will start to impact a city like Miami, which is growing at such a staggering pace? Anyone?
So we're working in Lima, Peru. And Lima has a population of about 10 million, 11 million people in its Barranco, Miraflores area. And then in Miami, we have a lot less people. When you go to Mexico City or Panama, or you go to other countries in South and Central America, the population center is so much greater. What will happen now, what's happening now, is we're finally starting to build the urban core. So we built Sunny Isles Beach substantially, we built Aventura substantially, Miami Beach is substantially filled out, but the urban core and the periphery, whether it's the river, is going to get filled up. Now there's a drastic change in the way people behave and think and communicate today that was not in existence 5 years ago, 10 years ago, right? So 7 years ago when we were building in Abu Dhabi, we used to have BlackBerries. Well, today everybody has in their pocket the Samsung or the iPhone, and we can fly to the moon with that, with the technology that we have there. The point of the matter here is for us as in the real estate business is that the car, when we were growing up, was something, a point of reference. We all wanted the car and what car we had and so forth. But today, when I look at my kids and the next generation, the clients who are coming into the office, car is completely irrelevant. And if they can get rid of the car, if they can find somebody to drive them, Uber, Lyft, what have you, that's the way to go. Besides that, the public transportation is getting so much more easier to use and more sophisticated because of the technology that we have. And it's not just Miami, it's every country around the world. We just finished a project in Cape Town. It's the same thing. People want to have a better quality of life. That is important to understand, because the minute you desire and you have the wish to have a better quality of life. I grew up in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I would rather be a bum with no money in Miami Beach under a coconut tree than be under a tree in 30 below in Minneapolis. And that's one of the reasons why I came here. Having to understand that, then most people will make their own personal decisions and will end up in South Florida, which is, again, it's the only subtropical climate in the lower 48. The minute you acknowledge and understand that, then you will see that the next generation really desires to live here one way or another. Wynwood used to be, let's say 20, 30 years ago, an industrial location. Now we're doing a project for East End and related called Wynwood 25, which has that uniqueness that Jesse's talking about of the resi mixed with the commercial. But I don't want to bore you with that. What I want to tell you is that the way we're looking at real estate is going to drastically change in the next 5 to 10 years. We as architects, for example, right now, are working on a project, major project, single-family residential. Everybody's familiar. When I grew up, a solar panel meant that you run a copper pipe through a glass box and it heats up the water. Today, a solar panel means that it can soak up the energy and charge a battery. Well, a few years ago, we did not have the technology on the BlackBerries to last more than a couple of hours, where today we have the technology on a battery that we can drive you around in a Tesla car. Imagine that battery connected to a motor, and that motor is sitting in your garage, and it's connected by low voltage wires to your solar panel on the roof. Then pretty soon, when you buy your house for $50,000 additional financeable into your house, you can have that package, that solar package, with the battery, with the generator. And it's nice and quiet like a Tesla car. So pretty soon, it runs your air conditioning or your heating system, which is the most cost expensive that every family has. $1,000 a month on an average, $12,000 a year. You buy the package for $50,000, $60,000. You pay back in 4 to 5 years, and then you're off the grid. Well, you can't really legally be off the grid like Bitcoin, but you will be 90, 95% off the grid, and that's where you save the money. So if you buy a house from any developer or the bankers who are sitting back there want to finance it at a low interest rate, then you have that opportunity to provide. And that's what we're doing. And right now, I mean, Puerto Rico just happened and the infrastructure was falling apart, but that's what we're working on a macro scale in Puerto Rico. Now, that technology was actually invented and started by a company called Masdar, M-A-S-D-A-R, in Abu Dhabi. You can Google it, at about 10 years ago in 05, 06, and 07. And they did not want to call it lead. They called it Estidama, which in Arabic means the pearl, because that's what you find in the Gulf, in the Arabian and the Persian Gulf, are the pearls. And those kind of ratings come from everywhere around the world. And the technology, whether the panel is made in Germany, or the engine is made in France, or the wiring are put together in China, makes no difference. In the next 5 to 10 years, that's where we will be. And that's what we have to understand. And it's going to be interesting. I mean, I'm excited about it. Today, we're designing buildings. We're doing in Wynwood, again, an office building with mixed use, but the glass can potentially act as the solar panel. And that is connected to a low voltage wire that runs inside the frame, that then connects you to the batteries that are sitting in the basement. And the basement is flood protected, doesn't take you any FAR or any density. And then you have an ability to run the office building so your CAM charges go substantially down, just because we have the technology. And of course, we're making it so that if in the future the solar panel becomes more efficient, we'll throw away that old solar panel. And if we want to, we will even change the engines. So, and that's what gets interesting. Sorry about the long.
No, incredible. Because that's what's going to impact the life of everyone sitting here, everyone, our kids, everyone investing in Miami. But I want to hear more from all of you guys. All of you guys have a different perspective, are played with different gadgets. So let's hear from all of you on this question.
Thank you, Alfonso. I think we are in this transition as we have always been, always evolving. Maybe like 20 years ago happened the same thing. We are always in this evolution in every aspect. In real estate, of course, as well. Now we have a lot of new technologies, like apps, for example, like the Nest for the air condition, like the Lift for the lights, and Alexa, the fixture that Amazon sells that help you, an app that connect you to the concierge to ask for the Uber or Instacart, may they go to the supermarket. So we have to give the buyers or the investors that sense, or that is what they want. So we as a developer, the future development is going to be standard in 5 years that every development is going to have Nest, is going to have Lift, because all these kind of, that today is like, wow, is going to be standard in 5 years. But we have to incorporate an additional apps or an additional solution, because, for example, a third party like Airbnb came to the industry and start to compete to the hospitality. But everybody wants to do Airbnb in the short-term rental condo. Then it's going to happen that the condo docs is going to allow in the future the condo docs for the building, residential building, they have to start allow some of the short-term rentals legally paying the tax and etc. For example, yesterday, Real Deal put the news that in Orlando is a building already with a trademark with Airbnb. So Airbnb is going already in joint venture with developers to make money, no? So that's what we have to deliver it to the buyers in this moment.
Okay. Any other futuristic, wish that you want to tell us before we jump to another subject? Andrew,
Sure.
Jesse,
I'll
you're
just
in the
say
technology, yeah.
I'm encouraged by the promise of car sharing and self-driving vehicles. As a board member of Tri-Rail, it sort of set up this tension between do we continue to invest in public transportation, or are robots driving Uber going to solve all of our problems? And I think hopefully there's a both and strategy, because we have current residents and current technology, and we've made current commitments and plans, the 6 corridors in Miami-Dade County, and people need help getting to work, getting to stores, getting around Dade County in a more economical way now. So maybe in the future, Uber and Lyft will solve all of our problems. I think that that can't allow us to stop making improvements and making investments in existing technologies to improve people's lives in the short term. So just acknowledging a little bit of a tension there.
Perfect. Thank you. One thing, Miami, let's tie up to the panel that we had at the beginning today about affordability. Miami is one of the least affordable cities in the entire US. And now we couple that with the millennials. So the millennials are taking longer and longer. They're living with their parents longer. They're renting more. And there's going to take more time to own a property. How do you think that trend with the millennials, with the lack of affordability, how is this, and Miami, that, we are really not good at public transportation, because there is not really public transportation like New York or other city. How are we going to fit together with someone that works in Brickell, lives in Kendall, and now has to commute 2 hours, and when they grow up, they're not going to be able to buy something in Brickell because they don't have enough money to do the down payment? How do you think all this affordability and the millennials are going to continue changing our landscape?
So that's an interesting conversation, and it's out there in the market, obviously, the whole millennial conversation. And there's kind of 2 parts to it, right? The question is the chicken or the egg? So millennials not buying homes because they're too expensive, or millennials not buying homes because they're renting for longer? And, I was at one of our conventions in San Diego recently. They were talking about the impact of millennials on the home market in general, and the fact that that's the single largest sort of spike in home buying is caused by one thing: getting married and having kids. That's what encourages and spikes home sales: getting married, having kids. So as millennials stay longer and longer with their parents, they rent for longer and longer. We're finding millennials as a demographic to be a lot more fiscally sophisticated. So they're learning to budget earlier, they're saving their money sooner, they're planning out earlier. And so in some cases, we're representing a project, University Bridge, which is the first student housing project as a condominium that's come to Miami. And that's located directly across the 8th Street from FIU. And as a student housing condominium, we've got some millennials buying there before they buy their own home. So they see the sort of the financial opportunity of buying with a leaseback and a program in place, the first student housing in South Florida, before they'll go and buy their own condo. So that's kind of an interesting demographic, shift in that demographic we're seeing. But additionally, I think, as going back to the expensive land sort of diminishing on the waterfront, you're starting to see second and third tier sites, which with a much lower cost come into play. So 4 years or 5 years, 6 years ago when we were selling Brickell Avenue or Biscayne Boulevard or what have you, or waterfront property, the land price, just the very nature of the land price, drove the condominium price to a very high number. Whereas if we're now in West Brickell, like Smart Brickell, or in Wynwood, or we're in Edgewater, off the water, in markets like that, you're looking at the land price that does directly impact the cost of the unit. So you're seeing architects design smaller units, not necessarily micro units, although that is a definite trend coming into the market. But we're seeing more efficient units. We're seeing finished units, because a lot of these millennials in that demographic want a turnkey solution. They don't want to come in and design it and have that hassle. They want to be able to walk in, it's fit, finished, done. Use of the technology, that is something I think is very much attracting the millennial buyer. But that land value is impacting the price dramatically. And I think we're starting to get to a point now where with product like that, we'll start to see that attraction. And frankly, the millennials are getting to an age where they will start getting married and having kids, and that will spike home sales.
I would say that the millennials are very opportunity. It's a very nice opportunity for everybody, because it's a bunch of people that has certain for a way of thinking. For example, they are excellent tenants. I mean, as Jesse said, if we create smaller units, efficiency unit, the millennial goes for like micro unit or a smaller unit than a bigger unit. So you could rent more per square foot because it's a small size of the unit, and the millennial like that. The millennial like the efficiency. So I think they are great tenants. In addition, there is a new generation coming, which is the centennial, for example. The centennial are totally different than the millennial. The centennial are younger people than millennial, but they saw the millennial like the millennial do not like the car, do not like the boat, do not like the house, but the centennial are more capitalistic people, young people, saying, no, I want a house. I want a very nice car. So there is a new generation coming that is going to replace the millennial or strategy or way of living.
Okay. Anyone would like to add more to that, Kobi?
Yeah, I'm seeing in my office, which is positive, is clients who are coming in, and they're corporations and companies moving to Florida. And I think one of the biggest weaknesses that we've had is that we don't really have. So I grew up in Minneapolis, Minnesota, like I told you. So we have Honeywell, IBM, 3M, Archer Daniels, Midland, and all these companies. Pillsbury, I can just go on and on. Here in Miami or South Florida, we are now starting to get corporations coming in. We have a number of companies in the past 24 months that have come in that are wishing to relocate. Obviously, some of them are major, and everybody is reading about it, like Amazon. But we're an architectural company. We have about 70 people in the office, so we're a small business. But those kind of companies are continuously, I see them moving to Florida, and that has a major impact. And again, and when I ask them, why are you considering Florida? They said, we looked at Florida before, and we didn't have the brain power, but now we're seeing the brain power being here, the international, and they're seeing Florida as a positive besides the quality of life. So they're seeing that the labor force is available here. Sorry, go ahead.
That's positive to hear. I think to your earlier point about the sun and the sand of South Florida, I think most employers understand that they don't have to pay people that much in Miami because people are going to move here anyway, or they're not going to leave. Whereas that might not be true in other markets. If you start having difficulty retaining talent or attracting talent, you have to pay people more. In Miami, employers just kind of say, well, yeah, we got you. You're not leaving, or you were going to move here anyway. So on the income side, we have extremely low relative incomes, and on the expense side, as was mentioned before, it's really the housing costs plus transportation costs, and In Dade County, we've actually invested in public transportation over the last 30 years. We built Metro Rail, Metro Mover, Tri-Rail, Metro Rail extension to the airport. Baylink has come and gone as a proposition a couple of times. We have Miami Central and all aboard Florida, Brightline under construction. So we've actually made passenger rail investments. The problem is, that the great tragedy is, we built our housing as far away as possible from our public transportation. And I'm not talking about like high-rise condos. I'm talking about like housing for normal people. Like, it's just, West Kendall and Doral and but even some of the condo areas like Aventura, Sunny Isles, I mean, there's no public, they're not near a Metro Rail stop or anything like that. So that's a big problem. We've built our housing as far away from public transportation as possible. And the other thing is, we haven't built enough housing. We haven't built anywhere near enough housing. And the problem isn't for developers' lack of trying. The real problem is zoning. Local governments not understanding the kind of housing density that you need to achieve and you can achieve in highly compatible contextual building typologies. I'm developing an 8-unit apartment building on a 5,000 square foot lot in Little Havana. That effective density is 70 units to the acre. But what is most of Little Havana zoned? 36 units to the acre, half of that. So, and that's a 3-story apartment building. So if you just floated that density up to what it should be, from 36 units to the acre to 72 units to the acre, there's about 1,000 acres of the city that's in that 3-story zoning category. You just created 36,000 new housing units. And you didn't build a single additional square foot of building. Like, just keep the building envelope as it is in that zoning, in T4 zoning. And it didn't cost you a dime. There's no tax credits, but what does 36,000 new housing units in one city, in one zoning category do to regional housing affordability? Now repeat that thought experiment in all the first-ring neighborhoods, second-ring neighborhoods, and first-ring cities in Dade County. And why, we got in this housing affordability problem because we didn't build enough housing units, and we didn't build enough housing units because the zoning is wrong. So if we want to address regional housing affordability, we have to look at fixing the densities in our first and second ring urban neighborhoods close to transit and getting them right. And I'm not talking about more height or more FAR. I'm just talking about the existing buildings that we're already comfortable with, filling them with units that people can afford.
Okay, thank you. Now, before opening it to the public, now I think everyone in this session is absolutely clear that we all are going to start riding Uber. The growth of, we live on heaven down here in Miami. We're going to move from Kendall to live in Miami Central, so we have the train station downstairs, and all our groceries are going to be delivered to our home with a push or a button. What questions would you like to ask this panel?
My concern on the density is what's going to happen with water and sewer, and because you up the density of Little Havana, and then you have the problem. Let's say that we don't need cars, like Alfonso was saying. What happens with water, sewer, electricity, and everything?
Well, the more densely you build, the more efficiently you utilize infrastructure. So building a brand new water and sewer loop at the edge of the Everglades in West Doral or West Kendall is the least efficient way to use water and sewer infrastructure. The most efficient way to use that water and sewer infrastructure is to upgrade it in an urban area that's going to serve many apartment buildings lining a street. So it's actually a net benefit from a fiscal standpoint to the region to densify and use the infrastructure that we already have or should upgrade more efficiently. Correct.
Anyone else?
One of the recurring themes that I keep hearing different panelists talk about is the transportation issue. If you're building in Brickell, downtown, all that, that's great. There's Metro Mover and all that. But for example, the people that do live in Kendall, that need to go pick up their kids after school, so they can't just necessarily depend on, the Uber lifestyle. And either way, if they're leaving Kendall at 8:30 in the morning to work, say, forget about downtown. The Gables, they're still spending 45 minutes peak time. It becomes expensive. Do you guys have any solutions or ideas for improving the transportation issue that takes everything west of the Gables becomes a problem for a lot of people to get into work? Thank you.
I can jump on that for just a quick note, because I think transportation, besides being planned, and I do agree with Mr. Frey said about intensification of density within an urban core is a more cost-efficient way to use infrastructure. But transportation also is organic, so there's a community in Miami that arrived here about 20, 30 years ago and services mostly hospitality, and it became a strong community and very hardworking community. And they have their own transportation system. It's the Haitian community, they have the jitneys. And if I can find a way how I can get on the jitney or get them on my iPhone, I would jump in. Another system, just that's organic, is in downtown Miami, we started the trolley again. And it might not be efficient right now, but I can tell you, I was on Brickell and I want to get back to 29th and Biscayne, and it was right there. I jumped on it. It was faster than any Uber I would have taken. So transportation is also what you will see now with the technology, ride sharing, carpool will become very prominent, because like the gentleman said, not everybody wants to or can afford an Uber, right? Uber is more efficient, but it's not the only solution, and there is no savior. So you can't just say Lyft and Uber is a savior. But there is ride sharing and so forth, which is very efficient and can help you as long as the technology is there. And today, luckily, we have the technology catching up.
Options. I think
Yeah,
another
one
thing,
final question.
Yeah, another thing to think about is not everyone. If in West Kendall, not everyone's going to be able to commute. So I think bringing more commercial uses or mixing of uses. So you have this whole fabric of West Kendall that's built where the uses are very segregated. The housing is over here, and the retail is over there, and the jobs are over there. And so can we change the zoning to incrementally bring more of these uses together? So I don't have to go quite so far to get to the things that I need to do. I'm clearly not going to maybe not hop on a train and get downtown to shop at Whole Foods, but can we bring maybe my job a little bit closer? Can we get comfortable as a community mixing our uses for the convenience that generates, when we've gotten really comfortable over many decades saying, I want to segregate. That's kind of the original goal of zoning, is to just keep things apart. So can we mix the uses and layer on the top of that transportation options?
Yeah, because just to be specific to what Andrew said, is that you can look at Daytrend and Detland. We're working on the Daytrend Center now and recycling that and how it works from hospitality, office, residential, mixed use, retail, and commercial. And it is on the link to get you where you want to go on the public transportation. Doral is a perfectly good example. That's a brand new urban core on the west side of the airport that was built. It has its own town center and core, and that's really the direction we're going. You have it historically. Look at this building. This building was designed 100 years ago, and you can just think what people were thinking 100 years ago and how it relates to where the future is. And we are just recycling what people have thought about before this urban planning. That's all we're doing. But Daytrend is a good example, and all the periphery areas, we're not going to throw away the infrastructure. We're going to recycle it, increase the density and intensification, and recycle the infrastructure that we have.
And to follow on that thought, we also sell single-family homes, so we actually sell to normal people as well, believe it or not. But it's what I love about Miami is we're very impatient, right? Because we want to be a great big city, and then we want all the infrastructure and everything to be done overnight. But it's a city in progress. So, to go back to the earlier questions of the impact of some of this prime land being picked off and limited availability, it is really creating neighborhoods in Miami. And even as a few years ago, as 15 years, we didn't have very defined neighborhoods. Now we know, Santi just mentioned West Brickell. There never was a West Brickell, it was Brickell.
Right.
Or downtown. But now we've got downtown, then you've got Brickell side, then you've got West Brickell, you've got Edgewood, you've got Wynwood, you've got Doral, you've got all these neighborhoods that have been created. And as those neighborhoods create, going back to the zoning conversation, And the businesses that are coming in, and it's not only in Miami, in Broward and West Palm, and as you go north, you're seeing these neighborhoods come in, and this influx of businesses are starting to create economic centers in those neighborhoods. And then, not to put too fine a point on it, but we all know how everyone drives in South Florida, and it drives me absolutely crazy, you know, when there's 5 cars between me and the next car, and I'm on US 1 trying to get from south to north. And that's when you realize the importance of self-driving cars that will all talk to each other and create a lot more efficiency on our roadway system. We don't have that luxury of expanding our roadways. We're maxed out. You drive down any of our main corridors now, we are to the limits. Now they're starting to think about, do we put double levels on it? What do we do? But necessity is the mother of invention. And what's happening now, there's a tremendous necessity for more efficient roadways. So that is why these car companies are fast-tracking that. It's not just simply for the cool factor, it's a necessity for us moving forward. And I think that's going to alleviate significantly those outer-lying suburbs in the next 10 years.
Okay. Yeah, the last question.
Yes, I live at Brickell, Alde Park. It's a building from Cervera, and I have 2 kids, 10 and 9. And, one is the big problem is schools. I know that we are developing a lot of units, and there's no school. So I have to take my kids far away. Right now, I have to drive farther to take my 2 kids, because the school that is in Brickell is until 5th grade. That's what it is. So my kids are going up to another grade, and I have to go far away to take my kids. My question is, why all the developers don't try to build a big school, buy a land together, and put a big school of Brickell? Because when my international buyers tell me, okay, Oreste, I want to buy these units. Oh, where's the nearest school? You're like, oh, well, this one is in the 5th grade. No, my kid is 11, 12. Where I have to take those kids? To private. No, I don't want to pay private. So why, in all these years, I've been 9 years in this country, and I'm living in Brickell, and no schools. And you talk to the developers, and they say, no, talk to the Miami government and all the money that you pay, and they're doing nothing. And in the near future, we don't see that's going to happen.
Does anyone
so
have
anyone
up here have any thoughts on
Well,
that?
I think Related is putting a school in their next West Brickell project.
Yeah, and we're looking at our projects to have the schools within it, and the transportation to it, again, is going to be like a pool Uber. And this gentleman right here had a question.
Yeah, but there's impact fee money that's available, and I think if developers are hearing it from buyers, there's no reason that developers can't engage with Dade County Public Schools to put impact fee to work in new construction buildings.
For example,
there's nothing stopping that. It's just in a public
Yeah,
sector.
it's another industry, another business school, because involve governments and operation agreements, etc. But for example, in Smart Brickell, we're thinking about that. We have a guardery for kids, like daycare for kids, thinking in the needs that the potential buyers or tenant would have for the kids. So we are thinking in that, for example. And Related is going to West Brickell School as well?
I think, and I think in Al Milo's development, he was telling me.
Yeah, unfortunately, we have to cut. We have to go to the break and to lunch. I think we would be the whole day here talking about the future of Miami.
All right.
Yeah, thank you for this panel.